En el centro de la pampa vive un pimiento. Sol y viento pa' su vida, sol y viento.
Hello, I'm Patrick Barnard. Welcome to the 29th edition of the Pimento Report. I'm standing in Westmount Park. It is Sunday, November 14th. It's an incredibly warm day. Behind me, people are playing tennis in this part of Canada in the middle of November. For the 27th Pimento Report, we made a video which was called Urban Change in Montreal. It stirred a considerable reaction. Interestingly enough, that video, Urban Change in Montreal, also provoked a reaction on the part of the mayor of Westmount, Mr. Peter Trent. He was bothered by several things in it, particularly the statement that in fact a new arena here in Westmount will double the ice rink capacity that is presently there. You can understand in a way why the mayor would be bothered. After all, if you took a tape measure around the arena that's there right now and you measured the ice surface, it's 1.5 rinks or 1 1/3 rinks, and you could say that the new arena that's being proposed will in fact only be 25% more or 33.33% more. But I believe in fact that that is very misleading and stand behind the statement that was made in the earlier video. Why do I say that? Because now we have, let us say, 1.5 rinks, but the half rink is reserved for children and very, very casual skating. That will be replaced by 2 NHL-size hockey rinks. So in fact, the ice hockey capacity of the new arena will be double the first, double the use, double the traffic, double the cars. Not only that, but a number of us feel that there will be very intense use of this new facility. I wonder how many people realize this. Well, a group of us from Westmount went out to see a 2-rink complex in Brassard. Now, of course, the one in Brassard will not be duplicated here. Westmount's version of this kind of thing will be quite different, no doubt. But some things will be very much the same, particularly the scale of what is involved. So let us now go and take a look at a 2 NHL rink arena complex in Brassard. It cost about $33 million to build. The one that is proposed here is a $37 million project. Here you see the Brassard suburban double rink complex. The purpose of this video visit to Brassard is to stimulate public debate about Westmount's planning and environment right now, especially since Westmount civic associations are becoming increasingly involved with Montreal-wide environmental issues at this time. 5 of these Westmount civic groups, for example, have just joined Equiterre, the Suzuki Foundation, and others to seek a revised Turcotte plan to lessen auto traffic. With this tour of the Brassard Centre, we'll try to see how this existing suburban facility is clearly different from what Westmount proposes for itself. But we will also highlight some of the inevitable similarities in projects of this scale.
Here we are inside the Brassard complex. What strikes one immediately is it's very big. It's of course an athletics center, a hockey center. It's noisy, alcohol is being served, there's lots of video screens, there's in fact music that's louder than one would expect. It's an intensely busy, and I would say very commercial place.
Two-rink arenas are very busy places. Inside the Brassard complex, there are corridors of dressing rooms, areas for service personnel. Westmount's proposed complex will not be as big, but future service, maintenance, and operating costs in Westmount will certainly be high. The Brassard complex is above the surface, while Westmount's current plan envisages 2 NHL rinks that will go underground, deep below Westmount Park. That has never been done before in North America, so we are told. How did the 2 big rink idea lead to this juncture? It is key to remember that the current mayor, Mr. Peter Trent, inherited this project from his predecessor, Karen Marks. In the early 2000s, a core group in Westmount had settled on 2 big rinks at the site of the present arena, even though that space is simply too small and too complex, really, for such facilities. And the obsession with that misplaced idea has meant that all alternative suggestions from citizens for auxiliary ice space elsewhere have been rejected. Also, proposals that Westmount really needed 1.5 rinks, not 2, and a year-round indoor pool, all with the same footprint as existing facilities, well, those ideas were simply dismissed. The 1.5 and year-round pool lost idea was what the late Don Wedge referred to when he called the present plans a lost opportunity.
Don Wedge was a very respected environmental activist and journalist here in Westmount who knew a tremendous amount about the city. I wouldn't for a moment invoke his name for an idea that was not his. I don't know what he would think about this new arena pool project. He might very well have been in favor of it. But the last conversation I had with Don revealed something very important, I think. I was speaking to him, I was saying, look, Don, this planning for this arena pool project really seems chaotic. What's going on here? And we were at that time talking about a $20 million project. And Don said to me, look, what's gone on here is quite simple. There was always a rush for this money, this grant money. That was what was pushing everything. I think that's deeply true. In my view, the money led the project led the planners came in behind everything else, and then eventually, at the end of the line, the taxpayers and residents of Westmount. Now, those residents have always been told that this 2 big rink deal was a done deal, take it or leave it, it can't be changed. And this was especially in terms of the entente signed between the provincial government and the city of Westmount. Well, a number of people have looked carefully at that entente, and it's simply not true that it cannot be changed. And it's simply not true that there's a very, very short deadline to this process. This process will go on for some time. And citizens can see an English translation of that entente on the Westmount Watch website. It has not been translated into English for Westmount citizens, so Westmount Watch is the place to go to see that. There are a significant number of people in Westmount who believe that this 2 big NHL rink/pool idea is a very, very bad notion indeed. There are 3 reasons for Westmount residents and taxpayers to reject the plan as it stands now. These reasons are: number 1, financial; number 2, health and social reasons; and number 3, the environment.
Peter Trent returned to the Westmount Mayoralty in 2009, determined to satisfy hockey interests and the perceived need for extra ice time, while at the same time genuinely responding to citizens' concerns about historic Westmount Park. After all, Peter Trent is the man who a generation ago made sure that the park was zoned properly. However, the imperative to have 2 NHL-size rinks in one place still dominated planning, and Trent said publicly that if the structures went above ground, citizens would refuse to pay. So the solution was proposed to put the 2 rinks underground. Westmount's $37 million project will be financed by a $10 million grant from Quebec, $10 million from the federal government, $12 million from Westmount taxpayers, and anticipated private contributions. There are 2 problems, though. First, the Westmount-Quebec entente. It's still a question whether donations will be subtracted from the provincial grant and actually lower it. Secondly, 2 informed Westmount sources have conveyed important information. The first said that putting 2 NHL-size rinks underground has never been done before, so no firm predictions about the future are possible. No one knows, the official said. The skillful mayor may be able to keep his pledge to hold expenses in the $30 million range, but costs could also balloon far beyond that, with very high user fees if the cost goes to $50 million or above, the official added. A second experienced Westmount official said, quote, "I have never seen a project of this type that did not go 40% over budget," unquote. That estimate could raise the cost of the arena pool project to $51.8 million. One of the features of the recent stimulus programs, both provincial and federal, is that the more you get, the more you have to spend. Westmount's outstanding debt right now as a city is $38 million. Its third of the arena pool project cost is at least $12 million. And the latest news is that Westmount employees' defined pension plan will cost the city $15 million over the next 10 years. The city has said its priorities now are the arena, taxes, and traffic. But the present situation will, in a relatively short time, nearly double the financial liabilities of Westmount citizens and taxpayers. The parking lot outside the Brassard Arena is huge. Westmount will not have such a parking capacity, it says, but Westmount does hope to put an underground garage for an extra 44 cars just off Lansdowne Avenue. That would probably mean an estimated 250 to 500 extra car visits per day for the area. And apparently summer hockey is planned on at least one rink, and that would keep up the car traffic the year round. Less cars than at Brassard, but with far more intense impact for Westmount residents near the arena, breathing in the vehicle exhaust. Last year, researchers at Montreal's McGill University under the leadership of Dan L. Krause published a thorough study of air pollution at the neighborhood scale in Montreal. They found that elevated exposures to air pollution extend across social boundaries in Montreal. And they reported 4 neighborhoods in Saint Laurent, Mount Royal, and Westmount where, quote, mean annual levels of nitrogen dioxide exceeded 23 parts per billion, which is double the Montreal average, and in excess of the World Health Organization air quality guidelines for annual exposures, unquote. What is the current nitrogen dioxide level on Lansdowne Avenue or Academy Road, both adjoining the arena area? No one knows. I recently asked City Council to consider installing measuring samplers for greenhouse gases in the Lansdowne-St. Catherine area, a request that was disregarded. But indoor ice hockey has an obviously large ecological footprint, and Westmount should not be using the tax dollars of residents on Academy and Lansdowne to add even one more car to the existing capacity. Looking out over the brown waterlogged fields of Westmount Park on December the 1st, 2010, one remembers that climate scientists all over the world are waiting for the data from the last few months to if indeed 2010 will be the warmest year on record. Playing hockey in the summer, adding extra car traffic, increasing the ecological footprint of the arena pool area are all actions that I believe are environmentally unwise, very unwise. True, 1 acre of grass coverage will be added to the park, but under this natural cover, what takes place below, out of sight, will damage the ecology of the place. The Norwegian philosopher Arne Næss made an observation that applies not just to natural spaces, but also to the ecology of urban parks. Things cannot be separated from what surrounds them, Næss stressed. We're mentally trained, he noted, to empty organic spaces of all their fundamental qualities. And then, in his words, there is no good reason why we should not look upon such a bleak nature as just a resource. Westmount Park now is something of a treasured oasis, which has evolved over a generation, ever since the automobile traffic of de Maisonneuve Boulevard was removed from the park. 2 big rinks will now make the southern part of the park a kind of accessory to a sportsplex, and that would be a distortion of the park's vocation, especially its southern fields, purchased at a considerable cost 100 years ago for the purpose of a public park.